Hey everyone, I am TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host,
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
and welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we're here for another Xenoblade 3 video. It's been a while, there was that period when we did like one every month, but
hmm
we miss it, it's been a while, we haven't heard from Xenoblade 4, we love our Xenoblade here, you've seen our channel name, so we're going to go through a tier list of all the hero characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And it should be interesting because off the top of my head, I don't have any like immediate preconceptions of how this is going to go. I don't know about you, Kai, but I feel like they're all very
Yeah.
similar.
Well, when I beat the game, I did do a heroes tier list.
Hmm.
So I've deliberately not gone back and checked it just because it might skew my opinion. And of
Yeah,
course, it has been a while since either of us interacted with the game, but why not? Let's see what we think.
exactly. So we've got a list here, and before we go any further, I should mention spoilers ahead.
Yes.
We'll go into we're going to rank them based on both their gameplay, but also their stories, how we like the character designs, and everything all together. And there are certain characters you don't get till the very end of the game. So if you haven't beaten the game and done that extra content, you might want to head off now and go do that because
Yeah.
it's been several years. What are you waiting for? But for those of you sticking around, we're going to go into this and just see, in relative order of how you unlock them, what we think of each one. And I should also preface this: we've got a ranking here. It's there's several different tiers here, but even the bottom tier, like I think we like all of them to some extent. Like so,
Yeah, there's none I dislike.
yeah. So bottom tier in this context just means relative to all the others. It doesn't mean bad at all. It's tough competition here. But
hmm
I think that's enough said. So let's just get started. And who have we got first, Kai?
So we're going to go in order of when you can unlock them, pretty much, and we've done this off of memory, so it could be wrong. And I should also preface, we're going to be, like, basically all the other hero tier lists that exist are, like, gameplay-wise, who is the best for, the challenge runs and bits like that.
Hmm.
We are doing a mix of gameplay and sort of story character kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just how much we like them in general. As a result of that, this is a completely objective list. What we say is 100% true, and you can't debate with us.
Yeah. A bunch
Because
of
it is our
jokers.
opinions which
No
are
one.
definitively correct.
We are, in fact, the definitive edition when it comes to opinions. No disputing that.
Yeah, exactly. We will start off with the first hero you get, which is Ethel.
Yes. And I was actually telling Kai before we started this, even, you get her very briefly at first, and she rejoins you later if you do an optional quest, which I didn't even do to the post game. So I didn't
hmm
really spend that amount of time with her. But what do you think, Kai? Where are you thinking on this?
Ethel's an interesting one because she, for me, is the source of like, I mentioned in one of the latest videos about Three Houses and the world building and how I could go on for hours about it because it's a really interesting
Hmm.
topic. Ethel's place in
Yeah.
Xenoblade 3 does the same thing where because it's the way she gets introduced and then gets taken out and then kind of gets thrown in at the end as a little bonus, it's plot, sort of, it's funny, but I
Hmm.
find her to be so interesting where she's brought in chapter 2, really, really interesting character, very sort of Morag-like, fits in well with the party, and
Yeah.
then 2 chapters later she's dead. Like, like they take her out in a situation where it was realistically it was kind of low stakes compared to everything that comes afterwards.
Hmm.
She's a very interesting case of like the direction they went in her with her. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just really strange to me how they
Yeah.
brought her in and then killed her off quite quickly, and not even in like a Fiora way either. It was just funny. So I don't dislike
Yeah.
her. I think
It
gameplay wise she's very fun and story wise not bad, just very strange.
it feels like, yeah, I think she serves a good purpose in the story, but if we're ranking her as a hero and her hero quest, and more so on that than her main story consequences, it is
hmm
weird. Like, even the way they bring her back feels like, well, shit, we've got to bring her back somehow. So have this. It's forced. It's fine, and it's kind of interesting the implications of it, but I feel like she's based on everything you said, I feel like she's kind of very middle of the road. I would say, like she is the first hero you get. She's kind of the default hero, and she doesn't do anything extremely interesting. But she's not like she's not annoying. I like her personality. She's quite simple, straight to the point. I would think like
Yeah.
kind of B tier maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Ethel has a lot of fans.
Yeah,
Is a big thing, and I do think she's a
unsurprisingly.
good character. As much as I do have I do think the story stuff are very strange. At the end of the day, she did get more story attention than the rest of the heroes almost.
Yeah,
With the exception of some of the city ones and Riku and Manana, she did get the most attention. So I have got to give credit there. Some good scenes. Again, I think her gameplay is some of the most fun out of all of them. I'm
yeah,
honestly
it's
leaning
solid.
towards A tier.
I could go with A. I would be happy to move her up to A. Like I wouldn't fight that. I
All
think
right, we'll do that for now. We'll see. We can always move around later on.
yeah, I think she's the main one you're introduced to. She does a lot of cool stuff. She's got a cool personality, and she fights pretty well when in a scrap. So A tier
Yeah,
sounds about right to me. I'd say
cool. We got Xeon.
yes. I'm not gonna lie. For the first part of the game, I kept thinking, is it Garvel? Is that the little kid at the start of
Yeah,
the game?
I got them
I thought that was
confused as
Xeon.
well.
For yeah,
Yeah.
not just me. I'm glad to hear that. But I do like Xeon. I really like his class. I think it's just cool that they bring him back. It's basically Niall from Torna. That's pretty much what they're
hmm
doing here. But I really liked playing as him in Torna, so I just kind of enjoyed having that class back. He's
Yeah, no, I
pretty.
agree.
He's also pretty much very closely tied to the main characters, being he is from Noah's colony, Colony 9. So he
hmm
has that inherent link to you personally from the beginning of the game. You even meet him at the start of the game. And
Yeah.
I know this sort of crosses into another character later, but potatoes. Need I say more?
He does love his potatoes, yeah. Xeon's interesting, like you say, having that, the Colony 9, the OG hero character in a sense of
Yeah,
he's the one you meet early on from your hometown. It's very interesting what they do with him and the dynamics in Colony 9. This is again kind of a wider thing, but the way that they handle the stories in this game, considering that they sort of have smaller colonies rather than big cities, is quite
exactly.
interesting. I think it allows for a much more sort of intimate, conversations between characters where you get to know them. What's his name from this colony? Kit? Is that his name? I can't remember.
Yes, I think that's Kite. Is it?
Kite,
I don't
that's the
know.
one. It's Kite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while.
Um, yeah, it's been too long for us. And I do think
Need
it's
to
really
replay it.
interesting how he has that dynamic.
Hmm.
Class-wise, I do like having that tank from the get-go, where he gets really easy aggro, which is great.
Very handy.
Good class for lands and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously he's not as fun as Ethel on that front because attacking is fun, but yeah, no, it was an interesting one. I also got him mixed up with Garvel. Um, Xeon's got a very sort of stoic personality.
He
Um,
has.
I think the thing that I would put him in A tier, but the thing that drags him down for me is honestly, it's the farming stuff. Is that's a really boring Ascension quest.
Yeah, it's.
That's the
I
only issue.
like the idea of it, but it's so drawn out gameplay wise to it.
Yeah,
That that does stick. I feel like I still want to stick him in A, maybe like low A if it's,
put him
but not
low A if
exactly
you want.
ranking in tiers, but vaguely. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like I have to stick him in a high A. Just I love my defender. I love my aggro boy.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's fair. The only other thing to add with him is that his original hero quest is where I met my biggest rival, Mobius B, I believe it was,
oh
who
yes,
I spent 3 straight hours trying to beat early. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I've got that memory. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, to be honest with you. Uh,
Mobius beats the crap out of Kai. That's for sure. That was an
it
interesting one.
was,
But
yeah, I mean, that was my final boss of the game, to be honest with
yeah,
you. That
pretty
was really
much.
intense. That was a good time. Check it out on my YouTube, it's all on there.
Oh yeah, I'll link it in the description. But can we put him low A? Will you accept that,
Yeah,
Kai?
I'm happy with low A.
Yes.
That's good for me.
And then we've got Teach,
Yep.
who I gotta be honest, I don't really care for Teach that much. I don't know if that's I don't really know if he's popular or not, but I struggle
Hmm.
to remember much about him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Teach is interesting because he's one of the only Inderline characters in the game. Honestly,
Hmm,
design-wise, I
that's
think he's
cool.
he's got one of the best fits in the game.
Yeah,
And
that bumps him up
the
some
weapon
points.
too. Like the having like the what is it, the staff that you can do all the cool stuff with. I think his overall design is actually one of the best in the game.
Yeah,
It's just yeah, his hero quest and everything does struggle a bit at the beginning, just because I think it gets overshadowed by everything else that happens at the beginning of the game.
yeah,
Um, his whole thing about being a teacher is like, it's cool, but it's not as cool as some of the others. Gameplay wise, he's actually very, very all-rounded,
mm,
rather than just being a straight healer, which is his technical class. Um, and I like all-rounders, but it does mean that I found myself never putting Teach in the party as my hero. Just
same.
because generally you want someone dedicated at something. So gameplay wise did struggle, and like I say, story wise, story's funny because he has his whole Oleg, the All Slayer stuff going on, and
Yeah,
I do find that interesting, and even more than that, I think in his Ascension quests, the guy I can't remember his name, the Revenger or whatever his name was.
mm,
Um, I thought that was a really interesting character to bring Teach into, but it all felt like it came in just a little bit too late and too vaguely.
I agree. It's such an interesting concept, but in execution, it felt a little half-baked. Unlike the delicious spuds from Xeon's Quest. So I, I kind of veering between like B and C almost, but I guess
Yeah,
it's. I don't want to put him lower than B, but also I feel like how are we even going to use D tier, by the way? Do I feel like
probably not. I'll be
maybe we can get rid of
honest.
D tier, but yeah, I feel like again I don't know. I feel maybe C's a little too harsh, but we've got to draw the line somewhere, and they're all enjoyable characters, so
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I could be persuaded to go to B.
I will put. I mean, as much as I think his design is S tier, the one thing that
It
throws me
is
off with
good.
him is his whole plot of the All Slayer is funny because I could be forgetting details, but his whole thing
Mm.
is in the past he was he killed loads of people, he was a warmonger and all of that. But I'm thinking, how realistically was he like this killer for years, and then became a teacher for years and was like really known for that? One, like they only have the 10-year lifespan. So
Yeah,
what was he this All Slayer at 14? I don't know. Um, I'm
yeah,
not
and if
so
that
sure
is the
about that part.
case, it would make its own like more interesting thing that they didn't delve into him being like a killer at a young age, you know. So it's
It feels
uh,
like missed potential to me.
yeah, I agree.
So I will contend again. He has the best design in the game with his weapon and his outfit, but yeah, outside of that, I think we'll have to stick him in C tier. Yeah.
Let's put him there. Sorry,
All
Teach, to
right.
see you go. Valdi is
Yeah.
interesting
Baldi's
because
very interesting.
technically he's the first main story hero you get. Oh, outside of Ethel, the first one you get to keep, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, incredibly useful at the start having that. I mean, he is a through and through healer, right? Like dedicated healer, very much so.
Pure. Yeah.
Um, so there's no, we're not getting like the range of teach or somewhere. But if you need someone to keep you alive, very handy, especially early on. And his special ability is great in his own quest against the, against machines. But
Hmm.
very situational outside of that. Also, he's just like a good wholesome boy. But I wouldn't say I think some people really love him. I feel like I'm kind of middle of the range with him.
Yeah, Valdi's cool. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan. I mean, really, if we had Mecha Friend on here, then S tier.
S
But
tier, yeah.
yeah, Mecha Friend's really the one carrying all of that. Yeah, Valdi's cool, like you say, brilliant gameplay with
Absolutely.
just pure healing, and he's a fun character. I think he has some very good moments, especially when he interacts with Alexandria in one of those quests.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Outside of that, I do think Mecha Friend unironically carries the story with him a little bit because all of his like,
Yeah.
he's got like that ongoing quest to build. What's his name? Begins with a D. Oh, the big creature.
It's been
Can't
too
remember
long,
his name
Kai.
now.
We're Xenoblade failures.
Dorcas, maybe. Dorcas? I want to say Dorcas. No, that's a Fire Emblem character. I don't know. Anyway, Dolgan, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
Mecha Friend almost carries it, but I do like Valdi. I'd probably say B.
I think B's very, middle of the road. Good, nice character, but doesn't do anything remarkable.
Yeah.
Gray,
Alright, next one
however,
up. Yeah, Grey. He's
yeah.
a fun one.
I mean, first of all, just basically bringing in Elmer's class from Xenoblade X, I mean,
That's
that in
very cool.
itself is sick. His design's pretty sick. He has some great interactions with the cast, like the iconic, what about babies? You guys got any babies? Like, so many highlights. He's veering towards S for me, like, he's a contender. I really like Gray.
Yeah, gameplay alone, I would easily say yes. He's got some of the most
Yeah.
fun gameplay. The outfit's really cool, especially on the main 6 characters. I think the outfit
Mm,
works really well. I
very
remember
true.
having it on uni a lot, if memory serves. Give us some guns. So that was really
Yes.
cool. So all of that really thrives. And then as a character, he's cool because you get him really early on, but he is a city member, and you
Yeah,
kind of have to
exactly.
piece that together, which is fun. And then
It's a nice
when you
kind of
do his
tease.
hero, yeah, his hero quest is kind of bad, but his ascension quest, when you actually find out who he is, I
Mm.
do think is quite cool. The whole idea of the espionage type stuff. I thought that was quite interesting. So he's got a lot going for him.
Yeah, he's definitely either, just about an S or like top of A. Like, I can't decide
Mm,
between the two, and like we could always move around later if we feel we want to, if we put something out of proportion. But
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want to say S just because when I think of heroes in the game, Gray's one of the first ones that comes to mind. Like, he
Yeah.
is, especially for an early on hero. And I think that element of, like you said, how they tease the city from the beginning. You know nothing about it. You know nothing outside of the vague interactions with Vandom. But that is a
Yeah.
really cool element to it. So I I would say low S, but
I'm going to
if
agree
you
with this, and the
yeah.
reason I have for it is that whenever, obviously, whenever I'd just gotten a new hero or I was doing their quest, I would equip that hero. If I was doing
Mm,
something story related, I would always equip Riku and Manana just because they felt relevant story wise.
yep.
Outside of that, if I was ever in a spot where I didn't know what hero I wanted to use, there was no necessity, I would always pick Grey.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much same.
and I think that alone is the reason I'd want him in S, is just because I would always pick him at default because he's just really cool, good
Good in
damage,
chain
good in
attacks.
chain
Yeah.
attacks.
Mm,
And until we get to the late game where you get some really OP characters for that kind of thing, Grey
yeah.
was always my go-to. So I think we'll stick him there now. Like the only thing that he falls flat on is his original hero quest, but everything else about him is very, very cool. So I'm happy with this.
Let's do it. And now we have the main story characters. We have Riku and Manana here as a
Mhm.
duo, and it's hard to say because as characters, obviously they're great.
Yeah,
Obviously they're dynamic, but Yum Smith is just
it's a
not
terrible
great.
class.
Yeah, I mean points for the costumes. I have to give them points for
Yes,
the costumes,
the costumes are
but
S tier.
I feel like they balance themselves out to be in the middle somewhere just because they have like some of the best elements to them and some of the worst elements to them as a hero. So,
No, I agree. Yeah, gameplay is D tier, characters and the outfits are S tier, so you've got to go somewhere in the middle on them.
I also, and I feel like, again, we're ranking them as a hero specifically, so I feel like I don't
Hmm.
remember much of their hero quest, like their Ascension quest. Maybe it was good, I
No,
don't really remember it.
it
But
was about Manana being a
yeah,
Sheffican, and
yeah, it was alright, but
yeah, it wasn't anything special to be honest. And even their original hero quest wasn't anything. I think they just slot it in where they had a space. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, not great.
I kind of feel like I would say B just because they're as like if we were ranking them as story characters, they'd be higher, but just as heroes, like and their relevance to that, I don't think I could put them higher.
Hmm. No, I agree. Okay, so yeah, Riku and Banana, brilliant characters normally, but as a hero, not so great. So we'll stick him in B. Yeah.
Hmm. And then
Cool.
Iserd. What do you think of Iserd?
It's funny. Original story stuff when you first meet him and go through all of that, I think is really, really good.
Yeah.
If anything, a little underdeveloped, but I do think it's brilliant the way they bring him in at first. So initial initial thoughts from when you first meet him, I would probably have put him S tier. My issue is everything after the story stuff where you meet him for the first time and all of that. I don't find him interesting after that point. I
No,
never
me
used
neither.
him. His class wasn't particularly good. Like, I just really liked the initial part with him, and then he immediately plateaus out at being nothing.
Yeah. I agree. Iserd is like outside of the story introduction, completely forgettable to me.
Yeah,
I can't, wasn't there a quest? Was that a quest of like the hot spring or something? Am I remembering
that was
that?
his ascension quest of all
Yeah.
things. Yeah, and they clearly just
But
wanted a hot spring ascension quest and didn't know who to give it to. So they were like, "Oh, we
pretty
haven't done
much.
anything with Izzard." There's this really
Yeah.
like interesting plot line with him and Nimue. Should we do anything with that? Nah. I mean, they did it with Tyon's
No.
hero quest, but the fact that
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
didn't get Izzard involved in that is like a little, yeah, I don't know,
So I.
a bit criminal.
Where are you thinking, Kai? I've suggested a lot of them, so give me what your thoughts are.
I want to say C tier with him again. Like
I
initial
want to agree.
thoughts was S tier, but after that he just
Hmm.
doesn't do anything.
No, I have to agree with C tier. Like he's still fine, but nothing remarkable outside of the
Yeah.
story. I didn't really interact with him much.
Hmm. All right.
Juniper. Now, this is another one. This is a similar Riku Manana situation where the class is just garbage, right?
Yeah, it's the worst class
But
in the game. D tier.
Juniper, like character design rise, really great. Crest rise, I remember quite enjoying them, and I like again how she is. They're incorporated into like Xeon's quest as well, and that so there's a lot of
Yeah.
elements to love here. But man, that class sucks.
Yeah, also the fact they called the class Stalker. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about
Yeah.
that. Like,
Okay, yeah.
you could have gone with like Hunter. Even Hunter would have been good if a little basic. But like,
Yeah,
yeah, man, Stalker.
they really stuck with that one, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's tough. But I do like Juniper. I like Colony Mew and the whole idea
Yes,
that's going on there. The both the Hero Quest and the Ascension Quest, I think, are actually quite good there as well.
I
So
agree.
a lot of props there, and like I say, story-wise, really good. It's just the
I
gameplay makes me never use Juniper. I never use Juniper outside of the story stuff. The
Yeah, and
class
it's
is
like
terrible.
as a character, I really want to put Juniper in A, but the class is really bad, and like, does that drag them down to a B? Probably.
Yeah, I think it's the
Yeah,
same with Riku and Manana. The
basically,
same
yeah.
placing.
Similar situation here. Sorry,
Yeah, it's like,
Juniper.
man, it's also the Archer character. The Archer character's always got to be underpowered in everything. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Some
Oh
things never
well.
change.
Yeah.
But we do have
Alright.
next up, Ashura, who
Mhm.
just that's a character, right?
Yeah, oh lord, yeah, leaves an impact for sure.
Really love the
Where to
class. I
begin?
gotta admit, I think I used her a decent amount in my team.
Yeah, the
It's
Dunban
just
inspired names are all good.
they are, and just like the spinning the weapon and all that, like the sort of dual sword thing.
Mm.
It's pretty badass. It looks great. It's her character's interesting because the whole thing of basically fighting like her whole entire colony is like fighting to die basically. This group of insane people is kind of
Mhm.
interesting, be it a bit weird. So
Yeah,
I want to say
it's
height here.
it's a funny one. I mean, Asher is interesting because she's technically a defender, but her offense is really good as well. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, no, she's
exactly.
kind of designed to draw aggro in that way. Yeah, the Dunban inspired stuff is cool. Chain attacks, she's interesting for. She's really good for a very specific part of the game. in the middle, and then the same as Izzard actually. They're both good for a very specific part of the game, and then become a bit awkward to use after that. And I personally, I consider chain attacks like a pretty key factor in a lot of this, just because chain attacks are so integral to this game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts there. Story-wise and character-wise is interesting. I think she has a really interesting arc with all of that, where she kind of explains what she's got going on, and she's got the memories of the past life, which is really interesting. The colony.
I like her relationship with Uni. That's all interesting.
Yeah, so all of that's super interesting. The thing that drags me down with her that has always stuck out in my mind is in both her hero quest and her ascension quest. As it, you know, she's meant to be like the crazy battler. She has more dialogue than any other character in their hero and ascension quests by far. She does she has like 15 text box monologues. It's absolutely nuts. And as much as I do think her story is good, it's just like she doesn't stop talking in her quests, and as a fighter, you'd kind of expect her to do more fighting. It's kind of weird. Funnily enough, actually, the thing it reminds me of is when I watched ReZero, and I was like, man, they love their monologues, huh? And I don't think monologues are bad. It's just like, you know, when I was trying to get through it, I was like, you could probably space this out a little better, if nothing else.
I feel like A tier is a pretty solid place for her. Just class alone, like, is really great to have. She's a fun character. She makes an interesting dynamic compared to the others, but she's just lacking that, like, that special something in her quest, or a unique thing about, like, her character and her place in the world that would make her up to S tier, I think.
Yeah, I'm cool with A tier. I'll stick her there. A for Ashura.
Perfectly balanced. And let's see if this carries up for our next character here, because we've got Alexandria next.
Yeah, so some people in the comments, as if we got comments, would be like, oh no, Alexandria should have been earlier because you can unlock her earlier. We know, but you don't unlock her until about this time in the game, realistically.
Typically,
unless you're like, you know, on New Game Plus. So, you know, we'll stick her here. Yeah, she is very interesting again. I personally like her because her whole thing is like, she's learned how to build up the colony to be like a powerhouse. You know, she's learned the art of like trade and all of that, like information wars type stuff almost. So I think story-wise she's really interesting. Gameplay-wise, being the critical hit character is always going to get bonus points. I honestly rate her overall as like very highly. I don't know if she has anything about her that would make me want to say S tier, but
no,
I would easily say she's up there.
She is. Like, I just distinctly remember, like, you know, the first introduction to her where she attacks your team, and obviously that's before you're likely to actually finish that quest. But that was a really great introduction to her team, and just, like you say, this powerhouse who basically gains the system and know how everything works, and immediately show off that they're more, you know, they're more aware than you are in terms of the world and how to fight. So I thought that was a really cool idea. I don't think I really used her class much. I like the idea of focusing on crits, but I guess it's kind of a gamble, isn't it? So I also agree. Like, I don't think there's anything to push her up to S tier, but I don't think she's middling enough to put her down to B tier either. So
no, I agree.
Maybe it is A for Alexandria.
It is. It's now A for Alexandria and Ashura. It's the triple A tier.
True. Let's put
I agree, and I think one of the fun things is, like, you know, the whole game's theme of like, oh, Mobius are getting these sides to just sort of mindlessly attack each other, and that's the cycle and all of that, and you'd kind of think, oh, well, the strongest colony is the best one. Whereas with Ashura, it's like their fighting is obviously really good from the scenes we had, but ultimately they thrive on logistics and taking advantage of the fact that some of these other colonies are pretty dumb. And I think that's really cool. Like, obviously some people will find it boring, and it's like, oh, her whole colony's just like shipping containers and like items and information. That's whatever. But no, being the person to create the Collectopedia is a very big thing in my eyes. The
Collectopedia lore, I can't complain about that. So
yeah, and her arc of like meeting Valdi and being like hyper sort of suspicious of him. And then being like, oh no, it's actually just he's kind of chill. Yeah, I like her character overall, so I've stuck her in A tier, just below Ethel.
Yep, I agree. And this is an interesting one now. Monica.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, do we have to dock points because she's Australian? I think that's only fair. But
Yeah,
sorry,
well,
Sam,
you automatically you're not allowed S tier if you're Australian. That's already true.
yeah, it's only fair. But I have to
Yeah,
admit,
funny one.
I do like Monica. She is an interesting character. I like her class as
Yeah.
well. It's another, it kind of reminds me of Xeon here, just like big defense, right?
Yeah, she is most likely to be the point where you go, oh, the HP cap is at 9999.
Yeah.
With her class and her hero almost is the reason why you'd find that out.
Very true, yeah. And just, being this, like, as a character, her sort of role in charge of the city, her relationship with, of course, Guernica Vandam, who you meet earlier, and how that's sort of explored.
Yeah,
like,
she's the Bandam character of the game, you know?
She is the Vandam, cool. Yeah. She's your playable Vandam in there, the main one. And I have distinct memories of her quest, like when you're at like the memorial in the city as well, and everything to do with that. Like, yeah, what are you thinking, Kai? Because I'm struggling on this one.
It's tough because of her place in the story.
Yeah,
I
very
think
true.
To get my gripes out of the way is that one is her availability is. She constantly flits in and out of being available as a hero, which isn't like a hugely bad thing, but it can get kind of annoying, like if you want to use her and she's just randomly not available for long periods of the story. So that's one thing. The only other thing is like I'm not a huge fan of her class actually, just because it's just Xeon, but the shield is bigger.
You're basically right, yeah.
Yeah, I do like it kind of like a riot shield and like a big stick to hit people with, but the only good thing about her gameplay for me is high HP and having a smash art.
Yeah, very true.
That was basically it. I didn't actually care to use her much outside of for story reasons. And the other gripe is her Ascension quest. A lot of other people don't have the same issue I do with it, but I think it's really weird how her whole Ascension quest is, and forgive me on the details on this, but it's something to do with like one of her relatives wanting to marry her, it's her husband's brother wanting to marry her, and I'm like, it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I can't remember who it was, yeah, but I remember in that quest, like the sort of confession of love bit and being like, okay.
I really didn't like it. It really rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, Monica is such a cool character with so much going on in the city. And that's what they chose for the Ascension quest. It's kind of the same as a couple of others.
Yeah, I didn't need a romance storyline for her. It just didn't really feel fitting.
No. But every other quest that kind of vaguely involves her, I think, is great. The way that she's like subtly implemented in almost every quest in the city is really impressive. So a real mixed bag.
I kind of want to say it's hard to again. How much do you distance her from her role in the story as well? Because I think there's so many great moments, like when she's introducing you all to the city and all that. Like, there's so many great moments in there. But do you count those? Because that's not related to her hero. Like, either low A or high B, I think.
I'd be inclined to do that. I'll say, if you include story, then A. If just as a hero, I want to say high B.
Yeah. I guess I've sort of been saying, looking at them as a hero for the others, so maybe it's only fair to put her high B. If we did that for Riku and Manana, I guess we've got to do it for Monica as well.
Yeah. Alright, sweet.
Not bad. Yeah.
Oh, he's got you covered.
He's got you covered. Such an interesting class, isn't it? Like, how do you even evaluate this one?
One of the best voices. Let's get that part out of the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man, I love the pirate voice. I'm sure some people don't, but I do think it's very funny. And
it's goofy, but it works.
To try and imitate. So he gets points. I think Mobius Factor is amazing as well.
Yeah,
so a lot going for
such a neat idea.
Yeah.
The problem is
it's just interesting.
It's the class that's the problem, isn't it? Because it's such a fascinating idea of being able to take moves from the unique monsters. But not only is it work to do, I also feel like I just didn't enjoy using his class or him
No,
in my
that's
team
true.
because
Yeah.
it kind of bring like if we're going on character and concept alone, he is easily S, like
Yeah.
no doubt for me. But the class does hold him back. Did you use it at all, Kai? Or
So the interesting distinction with him is his class and his hero class. Like two
yes,
different things. Is the
that's
class
true.
that he gives the rest of the characters, which is Soul Hacker, is the one that uses all the unique monster stuff, and that, if you make the most of it, is OP. Like that's what they use in challenge run stuff.
Yeah.
But his gameplay as a hero is terrible.
Very
He
much
has
so.
like no real good abilities. He is the worst chain attacker because his random effect is to either gain or lose 50 TP, which is just not beneficial. I mean, I say that there are uses, but it's a coin flip. You don't want a coin flip in your chain attack.
No, when you've got other strong contenders, yeah.
Yeah, so for him, gameplay-wise, you would never equip him as a hero. He's genuinely the worst one out of everyone here. But yeah, the Soul
Agreed.
Hacker stuff, I think the class can have like a slight impact on his ranking. And his class
Yeah.
is one of the most impressive, and his story stuff is really, really cool. I like how you get this Mobius character and he doesn't even take it seriously. He's just like, yeah, I'm a pirate. You know, I do pirate things. His Ascension quest wasn't brilliant, to be fair, but I don't know. He's got a lot of
No.
like other stuff in his colony that brings him up, I suppose. So he's a funny one. He's a very funny one.
He is like literally just on the voice alone. I can't put him any lower than A. Just the
That's
voice and concept of having a Mobius. I want to put him in S, but looking at the class and that, like that really holds him back. But Cap and he's got you covered. You can't put him lower than A.
Yeah, I'll stick him at the bottom of A. He has got you covered, and yeah, for that alone, he's up there. Brilliant concept. It's just would never use him in the game.
Now,
Yeah,
I have a
okay.
question. I have a question for you, Kai.
Yeah, I know what's
Do
coming.
you love the sea?
I love the sea.
Not the C
No,
tier
I'm kidding.
Yeah, Fiona's better than that.
Yeah, no, we don't love the C tier for it. Fiona is a gem of a character.
Yes.
Absolute gem.
We all
What a
can't off on.
superstar. Yeah. So you know, she first of all, like, what a poor character with the story. They really went in on like, here is the saddest possible concept. Let's give it to the most vulnerable character.
Oh, they know how to get to you.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like, even just as you meet her, she's like, all of my friends are dead. Like, oh my god, I'm like 14 and I'm running this colony of other children. Like, hell. And then it's like, one of my friends betrayed us and has deliberately made this hard on me. Like, oh god. And then the Ascension quest as well is like, oh my god, I'm just learning even more sad stuff. Like,
It's like it's the
wow.
perfectly balanced aspects of Fiona. There's the all my friends are dying, and then I love the sea, and that kind of makes the perfect mix in the middle, I think.
Yeah, I will give credit to the voice. The voice is yet another one that's just got to be highly rated on its own.
Yeah, very true.
I think in general,
I like the
this
design
game
as well.
was really good for accents. Like, you know, the other two games were good as well. As much as people rag on about Xenoblade 2's voice acting, I did like the variety in accents for different places.
Definitely.
And I think that this game did it even better, where they had all sorts. So I will give credit for that on a side note. But yeah, Fiona's just, yeah, story-wise great, because she's got all this sad stuff that happens to her. But even with that, like, you know, she is a good leader and sort of picks herself up quite nicely with Lands as well.
I kind of like the class as well. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had her in my team sometimes.
Yeah,
Find it kind
Signifer
of
is a
interesting.
really fun class, especially when you have lots of them in your team and you can just stack buffs upon buffs.
Yeah, it's like
it's
easy
a
to
really
make a
unique class. Yeah.
yeah, it's easy to make a buffing character boring, but they didn't, and I think having like the flag as the weapon kind of thing is a really fitting one as well.
Yeah. Are you thinking what I'm thinking with it?
Are you thinking S for C?
I am wondering. Yeah, like
Yeah,
maybe below Grey, but
I'm inclined to agree. Like, I can't think of anything to dispute her or put her down. Like, there are kind of just maybe she doesn't have as high highs as Grey, but I can't think of any negatives.
No, yeah, it's just a really good thing. I mean, do you like army ranching? I say that, that's
Okay,
Colin. That's not even her character. Um,
no, the army,
she's
yeah,
also
if we
really
would,
good in chain attacks, by the way. I'll add that too,
yeah.
as a small
I
note.
was, that is actually true though. The army thing is like the worst thing in the game. I will stand by that. But it's not technically her quest; it's just her colony. So I'll forgive her that one.
Yeah, so yeah, really, really interesting stuff. She comes in at an interesting time. So yeah, rest here. S for C.
I do love the sea. Oh, we're getting to a character now.
Yeah, so again, Australian cannot be S tier. Let's put that off the
Nope.
bat.
Maybe we
Yeah,
need
and
like a
if
bonus, like lower tier.
we do, and if anyone else was doing this tier list, many, many, many people would put her in D tier or F tier or whatever you'd want to call it. People do
Yeah.
not like Gondor because she's very abrasive.
Bunch of
That is the
dags, a
real
lot of them,
divide.
I say.
Yeah, I
I
don't
like
know. I don't
Gondor.
mind her.
Yeah. I like she's hyper obnoxious, but I just kind of find her funny. Like I enjoy it. It's
Hmm.
it's when she pops up, at the after the big tragedy, and it's like, I'm back,
Yes.
bitches. It's
Yeah,
like,
bag
yeah,
bitches. It's like, oh, brilliant.
love
What a
it.
good moment. That immediately bumps her. Like that and the Australian neutralize each other out. So she's back
Yeah,
to pure even.
I mean, I also like the idea of her like class being like the fist fighter thing. They did it much better in Future Redeemed with Matthew. Like that's
Hmm.
the only problem. Like they topped it, but I didn't use it much. I just liked the concept, but it wasn't the most useful class.
No, I like the
And
concept. I do think it worked, like heavy on
mm,
auto attacks, and then
yeah, it's
I
alright.
believe it was her talent art did more if you had all of your arts available but hadn't used them yet, so it created a good
Yeah,
dynamic.
it's
Attacker
interesting.
wise, I feel like a lot of people would opt for, Grey or Alexandria or Ethel's Flash Fencer class, but no, Gondor gameplay wise was good. That alone I would probably say would have been A tier. Um,
Yeah,
Character wise is where the real divide comes in. Is like she just rubs off every character wrong.
it's the
Um,
Marmite effect, isn't it, for people? It's
yeah, it is because she is like that. She is obnoxious. She is rude to the party unnecessarily in a lot of cases. But I feel like you need to have someone like that where
yeah.
you understand her situation. She's just been in prison for ages, and she's very much against the ideals of the party at first. And it's yeah, I don't know. I don't dislike her. I don't have any strong
Like
opinions to be quite
as a
honest.
character, I would actually rate her quite highly. Like she's memorable. I enjoy Gondor's dynamic, but again, as we're going more as a hero than as a story character, I can't really remember her quests very well. Like,
Um, yeah, her hero. I mean, she didn't really have a hero quest. She just joined you
yeah,
as part of the story. Her ascension quest was with one of the other
it's
top
like,
tier characters, Jumbo Tierkin. And
yes,
I love
that is
Jumbo
true.
Tierkin with my whole heart, but and I get that her ascension quest was meant to be like a representation of her relationship with Monica.
Mm.
Man, it was still a terrible ascension quest.
Yeah,
I
like
love the Tierkin getting involved in the story, but Gondor could have done so much cool stuff.
there was potential. Yeah, that was kind of just didn't explore it really. So as excluding it from the story, I'm kind of stuck between an A and a B.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to put her in B if we're talking as a hero, like top of B.
That's true. I don't think I could put her above Monica. Like I have to think about it that way. And yeah,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, she is quite rude to a lot of people.
she's kind of an asshole when you think about it. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, that does happen.
and then on the opposite side of the schedule of the system, we've got the complete wholesome character Miyabi. So
Yeah, and I know you're like a big fan of Miyabi.
I do like Miyabi. Yeah,
Yeah, she's cool.
it.
Yeah, gameplay wise, the Troubadour class is interesting.
Mm,
Being like, what I think her thing's art refreshing is kind of the gimmick.
yeah,
Which is fun. That's a very fun late game. Her chain attack effect is even funnier to me, where I believe it's the only one that like applies to a specific character out of the main six. where she just buffs up Mio to the extreme. I think that's really funny.
That is, yeah. I
So
like
that's
that
it
she
for
uses
gameplay. I
like
don't know what you think
off-seeing
on
in her
story, though.
class, like that kind. It's got
Yeah.
built around that as part of it. Um, that's a really neat aspect to it, and
Mm.
I just really like her character. I think it's like the wholesome one that you don't want anything bad to happen to. It's just that there's really, when I think about it, there's not much more to it than that. So
Hmm.
whereas in my heart, Miyabi's an S tier. Realistically, even based on character and her stories, on her her quests, I don't think I could put her in S tier.
Yeah.
But I don't I want to say A.
Yeah, because it's like oh Mio's best friend, and even that like
Exactly.
we'll get on to Kamaravi, but similarly to Ethel, I think the whole return thing was very strange. I think that was all a bit
Yes.
odd, but with
True.
with Miyabi, I'm actually willing to overlook it just because that was kind of the one that did make sense of like, oh, there is this rebirth thing, so here she
Yeah.
is. I don't know. It's all that whole plot point, if you couldn't tell, with the rebirth and regeneration of age and all of that. I found all of that really just plot device
It
heavy
was
and wasn't
absolutely plot
good.
device.
But
Yeah.
no, Miyabi as a hero is fun. She has a whole like cooking thing, which I think is a nice diversion compared
Oh
to like
yes.
compared to some of the others that are a bit strange. I actually think that's quite a nice one.
Yeah. I agree.
It's fun. Character design is good. Her personality's fine, although it is a bit Mio heavy, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I would be okay with like I don't know. I want to say maybe bottom of A tier.
I'll allow that. Yeah, I think that's fitting enough for me. Like I said,
Okay.
in my heart as a character, she's S tier, but looking at it objectively, yeah, A's good enough. I'll settle for A.
All
And
right.
interesting, I think like that's almost Camaravi for you, isn't it? Where you love the character, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, from a more objective point of view, I know he's not brilliant, but the thing I like about Kamaravi off the bat is, well, there's a lot of things. He's got the
Design
same
is
voice
sick.
actor as the main character in Triangle Strategy, so I have to mention
Yeah.
that part. Gameplay wise, he is just a true like attack demon, some of the highest attack in the game, even though it comes at the cost
Mm.
of hurting himself, which I think thematically works really well for him.
Yeah.
Um,
Very true.
I think his place in the main story is, kind of strange but still good. But of course, I'm not going to dwell on that part as it's not part of this.
Mm.
Um, yeah, his whole thing with Ethel. Again, it's all very plot like it's cagey. It's very cagey, but um,
I do
I do
like
like
that
him.
he has that sort of when even though like the whole rebirth thing, yeah, it's kind of forced. I do like he's sort of dynamic with young Ethel.
Yeah.
I do like that idea and giving them that relationship from the main game that sort of continues into their next lives in their
Hmm.
hero quests. So I do like that aspect of him.
Yeah. I think the thing that I wished we got more from with him is he was like hyped up from very early on as, oh, he's the commander of Colony Delta, I want to say.
Sounds
As
right.
like, he is the strongest warrior in all of Agnes. Oh, he's dead in chapter 4. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
you
the
never got to
first
see him
time
at
the
his
main party
peak.
meets him, you know?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's what disappoints me is he dies as soon as the party meets him. It's like, well, he wasn't that strong, clearly. He had a big old mech, and he still lost. It's like, I do think they did him dirty because his design and everything is really, really cool. And the story just didn't do him justice.
I agree.
His gameplay's really fun. He's got like the fire trident, which is amazing. The fire shoulder pads, so... I don't know, I'm very mixed. I think there's a lot of really good stuff with him, but there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, man, they could have done better.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I'll give it to you first, Kai. Where do you think he fits in this?
I might put him just next to Miyabi as like
I
a
think that's
gimme.
fair. It's the equivalent, isn't it? It's like I
Yeah.
really like this character, but the game did alright with them, but didn't do anything to put them in S tier.
Yeah. So I think that's it. It's just you wish there was more from him, otherwise he'd be an easy S, but story
Yeah,
did him
that
dirty,
design is
so
really
yeah.
sick. Like,
Oh yeah, it's so cool. Like that weapon, man. I feel like we could do a whole different tier list just on the weapons everyone has, because I love the weapon variety in this game. I think it's so impressive.
Yeah, no, very much so. I didn't really use his class much, to be honest. I didn't really like it much. It was alright, but there were just
It
other
was
ones I
dangerous.
prefer to use. Yeah, yeah, I feel like there were better options that did loads of damage but didn't have the consequences. But
Yeah, I
it
agree.
was a neat concept, at least.
Hmm. Right. Only
Right
a couple
indeed.
left.
Sagiri.
Yep. The
I...
the final one that's available in the main story.
Yeah, and it's... I don't even know where to start. Kai, do you have any thoughts?
It's a funny one with how late you get her compared to everyone else.
Hmm, that's
Yeah,
it,
it's
isn't it?
very, yeah, it's really late on chapter 6. And you know, her ascension quest is in chapter 7. And I think there's a lot of good here. It was a really long-winded sort of set of quests she has, because not
Yeah,
only do you have her main and ascension quest, but she has a lot of side ones around her surrounding their relocation to the prison.
of course, yeah.
So she has a lot of story, like significantly more than most other heroes here. You know, her character is cool. There's only so much you can generally get from a robot character. You know, she is a classic beep boop sort of. I am learning to understand human kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Never an idea I've been overly fond of, but I don't mind it. I think that her whole thing of like sort of you meeting her across the course of the whole story is really good.
Yes.
Like the build up, it's a little disappointing almost the build up because you're like, what is this thing that keeps happening? Oh, it's just a random hero. But at the same time, for Sagiri, that's a really like interesting plot point to me. So I
Yeah.
don't know. She does a lot. There's a lot going on there.
She's
Story wise, is a lot. Her gameplay is mixed. She is one of the best chain attackers, but outside of chain attacks, she's not very good.
doesn't she also
Um,
like follow you around in like the big mech as well, which is kind of
yeah,
entertaining.
she's in the
That's
big mech, which is quite cool.
yeah.
I'll give her that.
I did like that.
So
Cowards not
very
letting you
mixed
use the
bag.
mech as your class, but have
Yeah.
to make do. Yeah, I feel like she's memorable. Like she's definitely one of the ones. Maybe that's just because she's like the last hero you get in the game, but
Mm.
the main game. But it's a fascinating concept. I like sort of her colony and that, but it only goes so far. And again, I didn't really use her class
Hmm.
or her as a hero in general. So I don't want to say C tier. I think she's interesting enough to put her above like Teach and Ised,
Yeah,
but I think B is probably where she belongs.
I agree, B. I think there are some people that are going to like her a lot more because I will say, like,
Hmm.
her, giving credit, her hero quest and essential quest and all that, it's very well written.
It is, yeah.
It's
It's
just,
interesting as well.
yeah, I think when you're that late in the game, she suffers from a thing that a lot of the other characters do, where Chapter 6 in particular is the most heavy in the game when it comes to ascension quests and, like, you know,
Mm.
unlocking some new heroes as well. It's a
Yeah.
really heavy chapter that she kind of gets snowed under in, yes, pun intended, because she's underneath a snow area in that cave. Um,
Hey.
so yeah, that and then her ascension quest being really long amidst other really long sections in chapter 7 just kind of like makes it really difficult to bring much attention to her. So I'm happy to put in B tier. I don't know where, but you know,
Hmm.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how you've ordered yours, but I feel like she's maybe middle of the road in B tier.
I've put
I
her
put her
smack bang in the middle, so that works.
yeah, yeah, I think that's fitting. And that leaves us with the two post game heroes, and it's hard not to have any bias in these ones just based on being Xenoblade fanboys. But who have
Yeah.
you got first, actually, Kai? Who have you?
I've technically put Melia here first.
Yeah, let's start with Melly then. Let's do it. I mean,
There's going
like
to
I
be a lot of
said,
crossover here.
yeah. Should we just put them together? Basically, like they're kind of
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they're going to end up in the same place regardless of what
Yeah.
happens. So yeah, I
So
mean the redesigns are awesome off the bat.
they are.
Um,
It's
yeah, they're very cool.
Melia having like the staff, like it's kind of like a future redeemed run, isn't? Future connected run,
It is
isn't
her
it?
future redeemed stuff. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, and of course, you got Nia in here using iconic weapon and that, and also like the Aegis sword, like around her. Is that right? It's been a while since I
yeah,
played
they're
it.
like
Like the
the two
shimmers.
Aegis swords are glowing around her, and I
Yeah.
think her new design, like Melia's, is really cool as well because that's completely fresh. But I
Mm.
do like Nia's kind of being a mix of her old driver outfit and her blade form. I think
Yeah.
that mix is like a really cool way of deciding what to do with her.
I
Um,
mean,
yeah,
we're gonna put
really
them in
fun.
S tier, aren't we? I mean, the fact.
Let's not even mince it. Should we put them at the top of S tier
Yeah,
even?
let's
Because
just do
Melee is the
it. Might
best
as
in chain
well.
attacks, or both of them are OP in chain attacks. We can't help
They
it. Come
are,
on.
but I mean, just the fact that they have their own battle music and their god tier remixes of,
Yeah, that's what does it.
somehow making the future connected battle theme jazzier somehow. That's great.
Hmm.
Then taking like an emotional song from Xenoblade 2 and making it badass. That's also great. So
Yeah.
it's it's you can't just like. I mean, look, even if we take away the fact that they got special treatment being from previous games, the fact that it's kind of the fan service for us who have played both the previous games, the fact they show up in the final battle and that's all sick and cool, just when you first see them, that's all great. But like you said, like they are just really great overpowered classes. I mean,
Yeah.
Melia in chain attacks. Oh no, like numbers.
Hmm. Yeah,
They
I
stack.
mean, they're both crazy. Like, Nia is the best at clutching because she just revives
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
And then Melia is single-handedly the best hero in the game for chain attacks, unless you're going like super meta. And even then she
Yep.
might be. I'm actually not sure.
She's pulling off like the
Uh,
starlight kick, and all that. It's
yeah, it's really, really fun. So I think that they've both got to be up there. They're both tied for the top spot in S, to be clear.
yeah, and
Um,
like
they're both brilliant.
I like their quests as well. I like going with like Nia to like the different places she recognizes and stuff from Xenoblade
Mm,
2 and seeing all the sort of her react to all of that, and the sort of the
yeah.
way like in Melia's quest you get straight up like little flashback images from like future from Definitive Edition.
Mhm.
It's full of nostalgia, but they did it like perfectly, didn't they?
Yeah, they did such a good job with it, so full credit for both of them. Everything about them, gameplay, design, story, it's all really, really good, so they have to go
Yeah.
there. They have to. It's those battle
It
themes, it really sells it.
exactly those alone. It was inevitable, but that does give us a complete list here. Now, Kai, do you want to? Is there anything that you're hesitant on? Anything you want to replace, or do you think you're content with everything?
I think it's best I don't dwell on it, because otherwise I
Yeah,
probably will.
it's
Again,
easy
like,
to,
Izzard
isn't it?
and
Yeah.
Teach are the two C tiers, and again, I've had to be clear, like, Teach's design is S tier because it's such a cool
Mm.
one and a cool weapon. And Izzard, when you first meet him, is S tier. It's just like, I think that's the thing is they're all really good heroes. It's just they're kind of almost by design very situational,
Yes,
and that's a
you're
good
meant to
thing.
swap them
It
out.
gives you an opportunity to use all of them, so it's
Mm.
positive.
Yeah, they're all great here. Like C tier is still like realistically speaking, no one's lower than B tier, maybe even A tier. Just
Hmm.
they're all that good. But when you sort of have to sort of divide them down, this is where we came up with. But yeah, I think that's about it for now. Of course, do if you want to comment, do tell us what you think. Maybe share your own rankings. It'll be interesting to find out how divisive this is. I feel like this is relatively in line with like popular opinion, but maybe not. It would be interesting to see uh,
Mm.
where the average falls. But
Oh, I
until
agree.
then, you can find us here on BunchaJokahs for monthly podcasts, first Sunday of each month, as well as extra videos like these tier lists, like gameplay videos, reactions to any directs that happen, all here on BunchaJokahs on YouTube, or audio-only versions of the podcast on Spotify, all under the name BunchaJokahs. And Kai, where else can people find you at?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn, playing through some Nino Kuni 2 at the moment. It is good. And also for Xenoblade 3, if you wanted to see my playthrough of it, that is all on YouTube.
Absolutely, there'll be links in the description below, as well as a link to our friend Sam, who makes the graphics and thumbnails for our channel. probably should apologise for Australian comments in this video, but I won't. Sorry, not sorry, Sam. But that is it for now, and we will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!
See ya.